everyone, welcome to our channel Knowledge of Friends. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for the latest update. आज हम जो करने वाले क्लास वो केमिस्ट्री की क्लास है, जो कि क्लास नंबर आपका 1 है। ऑलरेडी इससे पहले हम केमिस्ट्री की बहुत सारी क्लासेस कर चुके हैं। इस क्लास की अगर हम बात करते हैं केमिस्ट्री में, तो ये क्लास जो आपकी है वो आपकी हम स्टार्ट करेंगे ऑफ क्लास 12th केमिस्ट्री। एंड क्लास 12th केमिस्ट्री में जो हम पार्ट 1 है वो डिस्कस करने वाले हैं। एंड पार्ट 1 जो कि आपका एनसीईआरटी सॉल्यूशन जो हम करने वाले हैं, जो कंपटीशन एज वेल एज सीबीएसई बोर्ड में टेक्स्ट बुक भी है। and you, that the name of the subject unit is your that is unit 1, the solid state, that we will discuss here. So first of all, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe to our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. And talking about the solid state, where the vast variety of solid substances like high temperature superconductors and biocompatible and plastics and silicon chips etc are desired destined to play an ever expanding role in future developing of science as well. We are mostly surrounded by solids as we use them more often than liquids and gases. As you know that we are talking about the solid state. In the same case, for a different application, we need different solids and that are widely different here. In the same case, if I'm going ahead and in reference towards it, that we need solids with widely different properties, and these properties depends upon the nature of the constituent particles and binding forces operating between them. Therefore, the study of the structures of solid is important, and the correlation between the structures and properties that helps in discovering the new solid material with desired properties like high temperature, superconductors, magnetic materials, biodegradable polymers for packaging, and biocompliant solids for the surgical implants, etc. In the same cases that we talk about it, and which is your from our earlier studies, we know that liquids and gases are called fluids because of their ability to flow, and the fluidity is the both of these state is due to the fact that the molecules are free to move about, and on the contrary the constituent particles in solids have a fixed position and can only oscillate about their mean position, and this explains the rigidity in solids as well. Where in the same case about the rigidity in crystalline solid, that the constituent particles are arranged in a regular pattern, and in this unit we shall discuss the different possible arrangements of particles resulting in several types of structure, the correlation between the nature of the interactions between the constituent particles and several properties of solid will also be explored, how these imperfections or by the presence of impurities in minutes amount that would be discussed as well, that we will have to discuss here in the same manner. We're talking about the solid state in a detailed about it, where we'll discuss the first subtopic of this, that is your general characteristics of solid state. General characteristics of solid state. So in the some same cases, we'll talk about the general characteristics of solid state, and where we talk about in a detail as well. And in the same case, when you are going ahead with the subject, you have to know each and everything. In the general characteristics of solid, here that we had done, we had learned some of the characteristics that in the class 11 that we have discussed in the last classes, that matter can exist in their three states, namely like solid, liquid and gas, under a given set of conditions of temperature and pressure. Which of these would be the most stable state of a given substance? That depends on the net effect of two opposing factor, intermolecular that factor forces that tends to keep the molecule or the atom or ion closer, whereas that thermal energy tends to keep them apart by making them move faster and at sufficiently the low temperature. The thermal energy is low and the intermolecular forces brings them so close that they are cling it in to eat one another as well and occupy a fixed position. These can still oscillate about their mean positions and substances exist in solid state. The following are the characteristics of properties of the solid state that we talk about it, where they have following characteristics, that is they have definite mass, volume and shape. Intermolecular distance are short. Intermolecular forces are strong. Their constituent properties, particles, that is like atom, molecules or ions, have fixed position and can only oscillate about their main position. They are impressible, incompressible, and rigid. These were the 4 5 characteristics of a solid state here. As I repeated, the first characteristics of properties for the solid state we have, they have definite mass, volume, and shape. Intermolecular distance are short. Intermolecular forces are strong. Their constituent particles, atom, molecules, or ions have a fixed portions and can only oscillate about their mean position, and they are incompressible and rigid as well. We'll talk about the other one, which is another way that we have to talk about in terms of other solid here, which is the amorphous and crystalline solid here. We will go ahead with amorphous and crystalline solid that we have to talk about here in the detail. So let's go ahead with that as well. Amorphous and that is your crystalline solids. So amorphous and that is your crystalline solid. In terms of it, if I'm talking about here, where the solids can be classified as crystalline or amorphous, and on the basis of the nature of the order that present in the arrangement of their constituent particles. And a crystalline solid usually consists of a large number of small crystals, each of them having a definite characteristic geometrical shape. In a crystal, the arrangement of the constituent particles like atoms, molecules or ion is ordered, and it has long range order, which means that there is a regular pattern of arrangement of particles which repeats itself periodically and over the entire crystals as well, where sodium chloride and quartz are typical example of crystalline solid. So for crystalline solid, if I'm talking about the example for that, that is we have here sodium chloride and क्वार्ट्स. सोडियम क्लोराइड में हम इस सोडियम क्लोराइड को NaCl भी बोलते हैं. In the same cases that are typical example of the crystalline solid, as I told you, and as an amorphous solid, the Greek amorphous means is no form that consists of a particle of irregular shape, and the arrangement of the constituent particles, atoms, arrangement, and a regular or a periodically repeating pattern in an observed over a short distance only. Such portions are scattered, and in between the arrangement is disordered, where the structures of quartz like crystalline and quartz glass like amorphous that are shown, and that we'll talk about it. And while the two structures that are almost identical, and yet in the same cases of amorphous quartz glass there is no long range of order, and that the structures of amorphous solid is similar to that of the liquid here. So glass, rubber, plastic, and are typical examples of amorphous solid here. We'll talk about for the amorphous solid examples. So for the amorphous solid that we have an examples here, and for that we have glass, and the other we have here, which is your that there is not just as I told you about, there is not the long range order. So in that same case, the glass, rubber, and plastics. So these were the typical examples of amorphous solid, and due to the differences in the arrangement of the constituent particles here, and the two types of solid differs in their properties here. In the same cases, when we'll go ahead with detailed about it in this only. So in the same case that the crystalline solids have a sharp melting point, and on the other hand the amorphous solid softened that over a range of temperature, and that can be molded as well, and in the same cases, and blown into various shapes. On heating they become the crystalline on some temperature, and some glass objects from ancient civilizations are found to become the milky in appearance because of some crystallization. Like liquid, amorphous solids have a tendency to flow through very slowly, and therefore sometimes these are called pseudo solids or supercooled liquids, which is the glass panes that are fixed in to windows or doors of old building are invariably found to be slightly thicker at the bottom than at the top, and this is because that the glass flows down very slowly and makes the bottom portion slightly thicker. The reason for this, and in the same cases the crystalline solids are that is your anisotropic in nature, and that is some of their physical properties like electrical resistance or refractive index that show the different values when measured along different directions in the same crystal. This arises from different arrangements of particles in different direction, and this is illustrated in, like, since the arrangement of particles is different along different direction, the value of same physical property is found to be a different along each direction. That is, amorphous solid on the other hand are the isotronic tropic arrangement is irregular that along all the directions, and therefore the value of any physical property that would be the same along any direction, and these differences we will talk about here in the detail, and that is your the difference of that distinctions between crystalline and amorphous solid. Difference between crystalline solid and amorphous solid. So the difference between the crystalline solid and the amorphous solid, if I'm talking about here in the detailed, so in the same cases that what we have to talk about it, and which is in that if I'm talking about the properties in terms of shape, and the crystalline amorphous as well. So in the shape, talking about the shape here, that is the difference between the crystalline according to the shape, that the definite characteristics geometrical shape in crystalline solid, and in amorphous that is irregular shape. According to the melting point, in crystalline solid the melt at a sharp and a characteristic temperature, and in amorphous the gradually soften over a range of temperature. In a cleavage property, the crystalline when cut with a sharp edge tool, they split into two pieces, and the newly generated surfaces are plain and smooth. And in amorphous cleavage property, that when cut with a sharp edge tool, they cut into two pieces with irregular surfaces as well. And the next property is heat of fusion. In crystalline solid they have a definite and a characteristic heat of fusion, and in amorphous solid that they do not have definite heat of fusion. Another property we have is your anisotropy nature. So in anisotropy, so that is anisotropic in nature is in crystalline solid, and in amorphous isotropic in nature. And the nature, if I'm talking about in crystalline, they are the two solids, and we're in talking about the amorphous solid, that is the pseudo solids are supercooled liquids as well. And talking about the order and arrangements of the constituent particles, so that in crystalline they are long range order, and in amorphous that is only a short range order. Examples of crystalline, as I told you about it, which is NaCl and quartz. And in terms of amorphous solid, which we have a glass, rubber and plastic, as we had discussed here, so you can just include that as well in your the differences here. So here that the amorphous solids are useful material, and a glass, rubber and a plastic find many application in our daily lives, and amorphous silicon is one of the best photovoltaic material available for conversions of sunlight into electricity. So amorphous silicon is one of the best photovoltaic material. You can just write it down, and that is the material which is available for the conversions of sunlight into electricity. So there are some of the questions I will give you as homework. You can just do by your side. That is why are solids rigid, and why do solids have definite volume. You have to classify the following as amorphous or crystalline solid, like polyurethane, naphthalene, benzoic and acid, and that is Teflon, potassium nitrate, cellophane, and polyvinyl chloride, fiberglass, and copper. And the other question is, why is glass considered a supercooled liquid? And the other is, refractive index of the solid is observed to have a same value along all direction. You have to comment on the nature of this solid and would it show cleavage property, that you have to go ahead. Now we'll talk about the classification of crystalline solid, how it is classified and how we have to talk about it. So let's go ahead for the classification that we have to deal here. Classification of crystalline solids. So here in the same case, for the classifications of crystalline solid, so before starting with the classification here, that the amorphous substance that they have only the shortest range order, and however most of the solid substance are crystalline in nature. For example, all the metallic element like iron, copper and silver, non-metallic element like sulfur, phosphorus and iodine, and that compounds like sodium chloride, zinc sulfide and naphthalene form crystalline solid as well. So the crystalline solid that can be classified on the basis of the natures of intermolecular forces that operating in and them into the four category like molecular, ionic, metallic and covalent solids. And let us now learn about these categories as well. So the first we have is your molecular solid. In molecular solids here, that molecules are constituent particles of a molecular solid, and these are further subdivided into the following category. And the subdivisions of these category we have, the first is your non-polar molecular solid. Non-polar molecular solids. So in non-polar molecular solids, if I'm talking about here in this, that they comprises of either atom, for example like argon and helium, or the molecule that form the non-polar covalent that I tell you about it. This is your argon or helium. These were the noble gas, if you know about it. and that is the molecules formed by non-polar covalent bond, for example like H2, Cl2, I2. In these solids, the atoms and molecules are held by weak dispersion forces or London forces, and about which we have learned in the last classes. These solids are soft and non-conductors of electricity, and they have low melting point and are usually in liquid or gaseous state at room temperature and pressure. We'll talk about the another one, which is the second type of this that is your molecular solids we have to talk about here in the details. So let's go ahead with that, and that the second one we have is your polar molecular solid. Polar molecular solids. So in polar molecular solids here, that the molecules of substance like HCl, SO2, etc., that are formed by polar polar covalent bond that we have in our example that we have is like HCl and SO2. These are formed by a polar covalent bond, and the molecules in such solids are held together by relatively stronger dipole-dipole interaction, and these solids are soft and non-conductor of electricity. Their melting points are higher than those of the non-polar molecular solid, yet most of these are gases or liquids under the room temperature and pressure. Solid SO2 and the solid NH3 are some examples of such solids here. So solid SO2 and solid NH3. Now we will talk about the other one, which is the third one, and that is your hydrogen bonded molecular solid. Hydrogen bonded molecular solid. So in this that is hydrogen bonded molecular solids here, which is we have to talk about it, that the molecules of such contains that such solid contains the polar covalent bond between we'll talk about the H and F, hydrogen and fluorine, or we can say that that is O, or oxygen or nitrogen atom, and a strong hydrogen bonding binds molecules of such solid like H2O, like in the form of ice, and they are non-conductor of electricity. Generally, they are volatile liquid and soft solids, and under the room temperature and pressure as well. Now we will go ahead with other one, that what we have to talk about it, which is the second one here, and that is your ionic solid. So in terms of ionic solid, if I'm talking about here, which is the ions are the constituent particles of ionic solid, and such solids are formed by the three-dimensional arrangements of cations and anions bound by strong Coulombic electrostatic forces. These solids are hard and brittle in nature. They have high melting and boiling point, since the ions are not free to move about. They are electrical insulators in the solid state, and however in the molten state, or when dissolved in water, the ions becomes free to move about. They conduct electricity. So that is comes under your ionic solids here. We will talk about the third one, which is your metallic solid. In terms of metallic solids here, that the metals are orderly collections of positive ions and surrounded by and held together by a sea of free electrons, and these electrons are mobile and are evenly spread out throughout the crystal. Each metal atom contributes one or more electrons towards this sea of mobile electrons, and these free and mobile electrons are responsible for a high electrical and thermal conductivity of metals. When an electric field is applied, the electron flow through the network of positive ions, and similarly, when heat is supplied to one portion of the metal, the thermal energy is uniformly spread out throughout by free electrons. And another important important characteristics of metal is their luster and color in certain cases, and this is also due to the presence of the free electrons in them, and metals are highly malleable and ductile. We will talk about the other one, which is the fourth property we have to talk about it, which is covalent or network solids, that we have to go ahead here. The fourth we have, as I told you about it, which is your covalent or network solid. So in the covalent or a network solid here, where a wide variety of crystalline solid of nonmetals results from the formations of covalent bond between adjacent atoms throughout the crystal. They are also called a giant molecule. Covalent bonds are strong and directional in nature. Therefore, the atoms are held very strongly at their positions. Such solids are very hard and brittle. They have extremely high melting point and may even compose before melting. They are insulators and do not conduct electricity as well. Where diamond and silicon carbide are typical example of such solid. So the example for this we have diamond and silicon carbide. They are the typical examples of such solids, and where graphite is a soft and a conductor of electricity. So graphite that we have is your graphite is soft and conductor of electricity. We go ahead, that is in the same case where that its exceptional properties are due to the typical structures, where carbon atoms are arranged in a different layers and each atom is covalently bonded to three of its neighboring atom in the same layer. The fourth valence electron of each atom is present between different layers and is free to move about. These free electrons make graphite a good conductor of electricity, where the different layers can slide one over the other, and this makes a graphite a soft solid and a good that solid lubricant as well. We will be going ahead to further that what we have to continue here, and in the same cases that we will go ahead further, where that the different properties of the four types of solid that were listed, that will go ahead with talking about it here in the detailed here. So the first we'll talk about here, which is we have here molecular solid, the first one, where the consultant that constituent particles we have molecules, and bonding our attractive forces we have that the dispersions or the London forces, dipole in a non-polar, and in a polar that is your dipole interactions, and for hydrogen bonded that is hydrogen bonding. These were the bonding and the attractive forces has been played here. Examples of molecular solids in terms of non-polar, which is Ar and CCl4, and that is physical nature is soft for that, and electrical conductivity is insulator, and melting point is very low. For the polar one in the molecular solids, that is for the dipole interaction, as I told you, and the examples is HCl and SO2, and they are physical nature, they have soft, and electrical conductivity is in their insulators, and the melting point is low. In terms of hydrogen bonding in a molecular solids only that we talk about it, so we for that that is the hydrogen bonding takes place in the bonding or attractive forces here, and the example is H2O, which is in the form of ice, and the physical nature is hard, and electrical conductivity is insulator, and the melting point we have is low. We'll talk about the other one, which is we have an ionic solid here, In terms of ionic solid that we discussed here, in terms of ionic solids, the constituent particles is ion, and the bonding and attractive forces is like the Coulombic or electrostatic forces. The bonding has take place. Example for the ionic solids we have here, which is your NaCl, MgO, ZnS, and CaF2. And physical nature is hard but brittle. And electrical conductivity that we have is your insulator in solid state but conductor in molten state and in aqueous solution. And the melting point is high. Talking about the metallic solids here, in this the constituent particles is the positive ion in a sea of delocalized electron, and the bonding and the attractive forces is your metallic bonding. And examples we have Fe, Cu, Ag, Mg that we have. You can just write it down few of the examples. Fe, Cu, copper, that is Ag, Mg, and in this that is your NaCl, MgO, okay, so on, ZnS, CaF2. And in this here for the metallic solids, that is the physical nature we have hard but malleable and ductile. Electrical conductivity we have that the conductors in solid state as well as in molten state. And melting point we have a fairly high here. Talking about the covalent and a network solid here that we have, and in this solids that the constituent particles we have atoms, and the bonding attractive forces we have a covalent bonding. And examples for this is your SiO2, which is quartz, SiC, C diamond, that is iron, and C graphite as well. In terms of physical nature, that is we have in terms of covalent bonding for SiO2 it is hard, and that is the electrical conductivity is insulators, and melting point we have is your very high. And for this graphite, that is your the physical nature is soft, and the electrical conductivity is your conductor, which is your the exception case here as well. We'll talk about some of the questions related to that, what we have to give it. So the questions we have to classify the following solids in a different categories, that is based on the natures of intermolecular forces operating in them, and that is your potassium sulfate, tin, benzene, urea, ammonia, water, zinc sulfide, graphite, rubidium, argon, silicon carbide as well. In the same cases, the other question is solid A is a very hot electrical consulator in solid as well as a molten state and melts at extremely high temperature. What type of a solid is it? The other question is that ionic solids conduct electricity in a molten state but not in a solid state. Explain. Other question, what type of a solids are electrical conductors, malleables and ductiles as well. We'll talk about the another that is the topic we'll talk about, which is your crystalline lattice and unit cell here. So crystalline lattice and unit cells. Crystalline lattice and unit cells. So in crystalline lattice and unit cell that we talk about it, where the main characteristics of crystalline solids in a regular and a repeating patterns of constituent particles, and if the three-dimensional arrangement of constituent particles in a crystal is represented diagrammatically, in which each particle is depicted as a point, so the arrangement is called crystal lattice, and thus a regular three-dimensional arrangement of points in a space is called crystal lattice, and a portions of crystal lattice that will be represented as the portions of three-dimensional cubic lattice and its units as well. Where there are the 14 possible three-dimensional lattice, and there are called Bravais lattices, and after the French mathematicians who first described them, and the following are the characteristics of the crystal lattice as well. We'll talk about the characteristics of crystal lattice here. So in this, the crystal lattice, that each point in a lattice is called lattice point or lattice side. Each point in a crystal lattice represents one's constituent particles, which may be an atom, a molecule, or a group of atoms, or an ion. Lattice points are joined by straight lines to bring out the geometry of the lattice as well. We are in the same case, we talk about the unit cells in the smallest portions of crystal lattice, which when repeated in different directions generates the entire lattice. A unit cell is characterized by its dimensions along the three ridges like A, B, C, and their edges or may not be mutually perpendicular. Angles between the edges, that is your alpha between B and C, beta between A and C, and gamma, that is in between A and B. Thus, a unit cell characterized in a 6-parameter ABC, alpha, beta, gamma as well. So these parameters of typical units that are represented. In the same case, we will go with the first heading of that is your crystal lattice and that unit cells, and that we have as your primitive and centered unit cell. Primitive and centered unit cells. So in primitive and centered unit cells here, the unit cells can be broadly divided into two categories, which is primitive and centered unit cells. So we'll talk about first primitive cells and then centered unit cells. In a primitive unit cells, when constituent particles are present only in a corner positions of a unit cell, it is called a primitive unit cell. We'll talk about the centered unit cell here, which is when a unit cell contains one or more constituent particles present at the positions other than corners in addition to those at corners. It is called a centered unit cell. Centered unit cells are called of three types, and that we have. For the centered cells that we have, the first we have is your body centered unit cell. So in the body-centered unit cells here, it's such a unit cell that contain all one constituent particles, that is atoms, molecules or ions at its body center besides the one that are its corners here. The second we have is your face-centered unit cell. In face-centered unit cells, such a unit cell contain one constituent particles present at the center of each face beside the one that are at its corner as well. We'll talk about another one which we have here, and that is another one, and is your end-centered unit cell. The third one we have, which is end-centered unit cells. So in this, that in such a unit, one constituent particle is present at the center of any two opposite forces beside the ones that present at its corner. So in all, there are 7 types of primitive unit cells: for cubic, tetragonal, that is orthorhombic, hexagonal, and rhombohedral, monoclinic, and triclinic. So these were here, and we are some primitives unit cells in the crystals as well. And that we'll discuss here the 7 primitive unit cells and their possible variations in the centered unit cells as well, so that you are be able to understood about it. So let's go ahead with that, and so that you will be getting it out. We'll form a sort of a table here, which is the first is your crystal system. Second is your possible variation. Then your axial distance or edge length, we can say that, axial angles, and your examples. Okay. So first we'll talk about it, that is the first one, which is your cubic. For the cubic here, the possible variations we have is your primitive, body centered, and face centered. And we had axial distance, A equals to B equals to C. And for axial angles, as I told you, alpha, beta, gamma, so that is alpha A equals to beta equals to gamma, which is equals to 90 degree. And the examples for the cubic here is your NaCl, which is sodium chloride, zinc blend, and your Cu, that is copper. These were the examples of cubic here. Now we'll talk about the second one, which we have here is your tetragonal. In tetragonal here, that is for the possible variations we have primitive and body centered, and in axial distances here A equals to B, but B does not equals to C. And for this, the axial angles we have alpha equals to beta equals to gamma, which is equals to 90 degree as well. And for the examples we have, that is your white tin and SnO2, TiO2 and CaSO4. The other we have is your orthorhombic. That is the possible variations we have primitive, body centered, face centered and end centered. And in the axial distances or edge lengths, that is A does not equals to B and does not equals to C. And for the axial angles, alpha equals to B, beta equals to gamma equals to 90 degree. Examples we have rhombic, sulfur, KNO3 and BaSO4. Now we'll talk about for the another one that we have, which is the another one, and that is hexagonal. In hexagonal here, which is the possible variations we have, is your primitive. The axial distance or edge length we have is your A equals to B does not equals to C. And with axial angles we have alpha equals to beta, which is equals to 90 degree, and we have gamma equals to 120 degree. And the examples for this we have is your graphite and your ZnO and your CDS. The other we have is your rhombohedral or trigonal. Rhombohedral or trigonal. In this, that is the possible variations we have, that is your primitive, where axial distances equals to A equals to B equals to C. Axial angles is equals to alpha equals to beta equals to gamma, which is equals to 90 degree. Gamma does not equals to 90 degree. And the examples we have is your calcite, which is CaCO3, and HDS, and that is your the cinnabar. The other we have is your the monoclinic. That we have monoclinic. In this, that is your primitive and end centered. Here it is A is not equals to B is not equals to C, where alpha equals to gamma, that is equals to 90 degree, and beta does not equals to 90 degree. And for the examples we have is your monoclinic, sulfur, Na2SO4 and 10H2O. The other we have and the last we have is your triclinic. it is primitive. A does not equals to B does not equals to C. Alpha does not equals to beta does not equals to gamma, which is does not equals to 90 degree. The examples we have K2Cr2O7, CuSO4, 5H2O, and H3BO3 as well. These were the examples of triclinic here. Now we will go ahead further one, and that what we have to discuss here, and units cells of 14 types of that Bravels lattice, if I'm talking about, that is primitive or simple, body centered, face centered. The three cubic lattices all sides same length, angles between faces of all 90 degree. The other is primitive and body centered, which is the two tetragonal, one side different in length to the others, and two angles between the faces all 90 degree. The primitive and centered, body centered, and face centered. They are the four orthorhombic lattice that are unequal sides and angles between faces all 90 degree. And the primitive and end centers, that the two monoclinic lattice, unequal sides and two faces having an equal angles different from 90 degree as well. So that we had represented here. In the same case, the other we have is the hexagonal lattice, one side different, that in the length to the other side of the marked angles on two faces are 60 degree, and that is in the that is your rhombohedral lattice, all sides of equal length angles or on two faces are less than 90 degree. And in the triclinic lattice, that unequal sides A, B, C, and A, B, C are the unequal angles as that with the non-equal to 90 degree as well. We will go ahead with the other one, that is we'll discuss about the numbers of atoms in a unit cell, that we have to clear about here. So here we'll talk about it, which is another one, and that is the numbers of atoms in a unit cell here. So here we'll talk about the numbers of that is the atoms in a unit cell. The first for this we have your primitive cubic unit cell, that we have to talk about it, which is primitive cubic unit cell, that what we have to discuss, that what we have to talk about it in this, that the number of atoms in a unit cell, as we know that any crystal lattice is made up of very large numbers of unit cells, and every lattice points is occupied by one consistent particles like atoms, molecules, or ions. And let us now work on what portions of each particles belongs to a particular unit cell. We shall consider the three types of the cubic unit cell for a simplification, that assume that the constituent particles is an atom. The first we'll talk about it, which is, as I told you, primitive cubic unit cell. In this, the primitive cubic unit cells has an atoms only at its corner. Each atom that as a corner is shared between 8 adjacent unit cells, and that 4 unit cells is the same layer of 4 unit cells of the upper or the lower layer here. Therefore, only 1/8 of atom or a molecule or ion actually belongs to a particular unit cell, and that is a primitive cubic unit cell has been depicted here in the three different ways, and each small spheres that is that the position that not in actual size. Such structures are called open structure, and the arrangement of the particle is easier to follow in open structure, and space filling in the representations of the unit cell with actual particle size, and that the actual process of the unit different atoms present in the cubic unit cells as well. In all, since each cubic unit cells have 8 atoms on its corner, and the total numbers of atoms in one unit cell is like 8 into 1 by 8, that is equals to 1 atom as well. Where in the same case we'll talk about the second categorization which we have is your that is body centered cubic cell. But for that primitive, if I'm talking about the structure for this, we have like it will be as follows. So here in this that the atoms we have, this is at the corners in the primitive cubic cell. This is the structures of primitive cubic cell. For the body centered, we'll talk about it for the body centered here, and that is your which is the second categorization is your body centered cubic unit. In this, that a body centered cubic that is BCC unit cells has an atoms at least at each of its corner, and also one atom at its body centered, that depict an open structure. We'll talk about the space filling model as well, and the unit cell as well, that the portions of atom actually belongs to it, and it can be seen in the form of, where I can depict you is in the form like here. So this is the structure, and that there is a diagonal as well in between them. So here that the molecules are in the corners, and as well as in between this diagonal where they intersect here. The body centered cubic unit cell that has been the open structure for this, and for the body center the wholly belongs to a unit cell in which it is present, and this is a body unit cubic cell, that is your BCC unit cell. So for that 8 corners into 1 by 8 per corner atom, which is your 1 here, 1 atom, and for one body centered atom is 1 into 1, which is your 1. So total there is 2 atoms. And for in this primitive cubic it is 1 only, and here it is 2 atoms here. That has been the total number of the atom per unit cell will be the 2 atoms here. We'll talk about the third one, which is your face centered cubic cell. Face centered cubic unit cell. So in this, a face-centered cubic, this is your FCC unit cells, contain atom at the corners and at the centers of all the faces of the cube. It can be seen in figure that you can say that in each atom that is located at the face centers is shared between the 2 adjacent unit cells, and only 1 by 2 of each atom belongs to a unit cell here, where open structures, space filling models, and the unit cell with the portions of atom actually belonging to it. Thus in a face centered cubic, which is FCC unit cell, corners, 8 corners atoms, and 1 by 8 per unit cell, so that is equals to a 1 atom. 6 faces centers, that is multiply half of atom per unit cell, so 6 1 by 2 is your 3, so 3 atoms. So total numbers of atoms 3 plus 1, that is your 4. So in FCC it is 4 atoms, in BCC there is 2 atoms, in primitive cubic there is 1 atoms here. You have to remember about it so that you will be able to find it out, because the numerical part, the questions part that we are dealing with in terms of it. So here you have to know about the values, and according to that you can just figure it out. Otherwise you will take time. and it will take more time to do it, so that you will not be able to solve it out in in easy way here. We will go ahead with further one, that what we have to talk about it, that is the another one here. So before starting with the another topic, we'll go ahead with some of the related questions which can be asked in terms of these related to these particular topics here. We'll give the significance of the lattice point and name the parameters that characterize unit cell. Distinguish between a hexagonal and a mono that clinical unit cells, and a face-centered and end-centered unit cell that we had even though discussed about it. And the other question is, explain how much portions of an atom located at like corners, body centered and cubic unit cell is a part of the neighboring unit cells as well. We'll discuss here the another topic, which is a closed packed structure. So in terms of closed packed structure, we have closed packed structure. So where in the terms of closed packed structure here, in this, in a solid, that the constituent particles are a closed packed, leaving that the minimum vacant space. Let us consider the constituent particles as identical hard spheres and build up their three-dimensional structures in a three-step. The first step we'll discuss is your close packing in one-dimensional. Close packing in one-dimensional. So close packing in one-dimensional here, there is only one way of arranging the spheres in one-dimensional closed packed structure, that is to arrange in a row or touch in and touching each other. So that can be represented in the form of, they are in a row and they are touching each other. So this has been representing the close packing of spheres in one dimensional. In this arrangement, each sphere is in the contact with the two of its neighbors, and the numbers of nearest neighbors of a particle is called its coordination number. And thus in a one dimensional closed pack arrangement, the coordination number is 2. Because अगर इसकी बात करते हैं, इसके लिए भी 2 है, इसके लिए बात करते हैं तो इसके लिए भी 2 है coordination numbers, because they are connecting to the two atoms here. We will talk about the second one, which we have close packing in two dimensional. So closed packing in one dimensional we had discussed. We'll discuss about close packing in two dimensional. In close packing in two dimensional, if I'm talking about here itself, that that the two dimensional that close packed structure can be generated by stacking, that is placing the rows of the close packed spheres, and this can be done in two different ways. The second row may be placed in contact with the first one such that the spheres of the second row are exactly above those of the first row. The spheres of the two rows are aligned horizontally as well as vertically. If we call the first row as A type row, and a second row being exactly the same as the first one is also of A type. Similarly, we may place more rows to obtain A type of similarly we may place more rows to obtain AA type of arrangement. That we can say that here for this we have a two dimensional, which is like form in the form of, they are this is a dimensional A dimensional here, which is in a two dimensional. Okay, so this is was known as a type, the square close packing, that we can say that, and that they can form a square as well, as you can see. Okay, So but in the other case, that is your BA, which is we have in a triangular that voids has been made. I will just do it by the another pen so that you will be able to know it. This is the squared forms, and that is the another one. So this is in the form of BA and BA. This is your BA, which is your hexagonal closed packing of spheres in the two-dimensional that has been formed. As you can see here, this is forming in the form of hexagonal here. In the same cases, in this arrangement, each sphere is in the contact with 4 of its neighbors, and thus the two-dimensional coordination number is 4. And also, if the centers of these 4 immediate neighboring spheres are joined and the squares is formed, so hence this packing is called the square closed packing in two-dimensional. With the same case, and the second one we'll talk about that the second row may be placed above the first one in the staggered manner, and such that spheres like fit in the depressions of the first row. If the arrangement of the spheres in the first row is called A type, and that the one of its the second row is difficult and maybe called B type. So when the third row is placed adjacent to the second is the staggered manner, and its spheres are aligned with these of those of the first layer, and hence that this layer is also A type here. Where the spheres are similarly placed, fourth row will be aligned with those of the second row, which is your known as B type here, and that is hence this arrangement is your AB type, and this arrangement is less than the space, and this is packing is more efficient than a square closed packing. And each sphere is in the contact with the 6 of the neighboring, and the two-dimensional coordination number is 6. So where the centers of these 6 spheres are at the corners at the regular hexagon, and hence the packing is called two-dimensional hexagonal closed packing. It can be seen, as you can see here, that is in the layer where are some voids, empty spaces, and these are triangular in shape. And triangular voids are also that are two different types. In one row, the apex and the triangulars are pointing upward and the next downward. In the same cases here, with the next we'll talk about it, that is the third type of closed packed structure. That is the third, we have closed packing in three-dimensional. Close packing in three-dimensional. So there is a closed packing in one-dimensional, as we can say, closed packing in three-dimensional, as we can say. Now we'll talk about the closed packing in a that is in three-dimensional, that we have to deal with it. In this, all the real structures are the three-dimensional structures. They can be obtained by stacking two-dimensional layers, and the above the other, one above the other. And in the last section that we discussed the closed packing in a two-dimensional, which can be of two types, and square closed packed and hexagonal closed packed. Let us see what types of three-dimensional closed packing can be obtained from these. So three-dimensional closed packing from the two-dimensional squares, that is your closed packed layer, while packing the second square closed packed layer, that is the above here. And in that is the first, we follow the same rule for was followed when one row was placed adjacent to the other, and that for that same cases, that the second layer of that placed over first layer, and such that the spheres of the upper layer are exactly above those of the first layer. In this arrangement, spheres of the both the layers are perfectly aligned horizontally as well as vertically as well. In the same case, similarly, we can say that more layers one above the other, that if the arrangement of the spheres in the first layer is called A type, and all the layers have the same arrangement, thus the lattice is A type pattern. The lattice thus generated in a simple cubic lattice, and its unit cell is primitive cubic unit cell as well. Where three-dimensional closed packing, that from the two-dimensional hexagonal that closed packed layer, three-dimensional closed packed structure can be generated by placing the layer one over the other here. In the same case, that we'll talk about the for the first part of this that we have to talk about it, and which is your placing second layer over the first layer. So placing second layer over the first layer here, let us take the two-dimensional hexagonal closed packed layer 1 and place a similar layer above it, and such that the spheres of the second layer that are placed in depressions of the first layer, since the spheres of the two layers are aligned differently. Let us call the second layer as B, and it can be observed like that as not a triangular voids of the first layer and covered by the spheres of the second layer, and these gives rise in different arrangements whenever a spheres of second layer up and above that the void of the first layer, or vice versa, or a tetrahedral void is that is formed as well. In the same cases for that these voids are tetrahedral voids, and because of the tetrahedral that is formed when centers of these four spheres are joined, and they have been marked as T in the figure. We'll talk about it, and such voids can be that will show above that here. So this for the voids has been represented by the tetrahedral or the octahedral as well, in the same cases that they are forming. Where that at other places that the triangular voids and the second layer are above that the triangular voids in the first layer, and the triangular shapes of these do not overlap. One of them has the apex of the triangle pointing O, and that such voids are called surrounded by six spheres and are called octahedral voids as well. Below, one such void has been shown separately in, and that the number of these two types of the voids that depends on numbers of the closed packed spheres. Let the number of the closed packed spheres be n, so that the numbers of the octahedral voids generated is equals to n, and the number of the tetrahedral voids generated is your 2n as well. That is the twice here. So in the same case, I will be drawing a which has been mentioned here, the numbers, and that we'll talk about it. Let me go ahead. So this is, as you can see, this is forming a tetrahedral here, and when they are going ahead with different layer as well, as you can see. So they are forming the octahedral as well. Okay, so there are the tetrahedral as well as the octahedral as well. So as we can see here, this is the tetrahedral, 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 and this is octahedral, and this is also a tetrahedral. Okay, they are forming with the another one. So this is if the octahedral is the closed packed spheres are number of closed packs is n, octahedral will be n, and for the tetrahedral that will be the 2n here. So then the next we'll talk about it, that is the placing that third layer over the second layer here, and on that we have to talk about it, which is the second category. This is placing third layer over the second layer, so that what we have to talk about it. But in the same cases, if I am going ahead, and that what we, even though we have to discuss about it, so in this that is when the third layer is placed over the second, there are the two possibilities. What were the possibilities? The first possibility for this under in it, that is your the covering tetrahedral voids. So here, that is the tetrahedral voids of the second layer may be covered by the spheres of the third layer. In this case, the spheres of the third layer are exactly aligned with those of the first layer, Thus, the pattern of the spheres is repeated at alternative. That this pattern is often written as ABAB pattern, and this structure is called hexagonal closed pack, which is HCP structure. And this sort of arrangements of the atom is found in many metals like magnesium and zinc. There, the second category we have is your covering octahedral voids. In covering octahedral voids here, in this, that the third layer may be placed above the second layer in manner such that its spheres covers the octahedral voids, and when placed this manner, the spheres of the third layer are not aligned with those of either the first or the second layer. The arrangement of the C that type only when fourth layer is placed and the spheres will align, and those of the first layer as we have. And this pattern of layers is often written as ABC. This structure is called the cubic closed package, which is CCP, and the face centered cubic, which is SCC structure. Metals such as we have here, and that is your copper and silver crystalline in the structure. Both these types of closed packing are highly efficient, and 74% space of the crystal is filled. In either of them, each sphere is in contact with the 12 spheres, and thus the coordination number is 12 in either of these two structures as well. We'll talk about the another one, that what we have to talk about it, and that is the formula of the compound and the numbers of voids filled. So that we'll discuss in the next coming class, and we will be solving out the questions as well related to the examples that we have to solve it out as well. So that will deal in the next coming class. We will end up here, and what we have to cover up in the chemistry of class 12 of part 1, that we have to cover up. There are many chapters that we have to deal with it. In the same cases for the chapter 1, if I'm talking about here, and that the chapter 1 we have, and in reference towards the chemistry, that is the chapter is the first chapter is your solid state, where we have to cover up that is has been in from NCERT, as I told you. The solid state, we have to complete the general characteristics of solid state, which we had covered up. Amorphous and crystalline solid, we had covered up. Classification of crystalline solid, we had covered up. Crystal clusters and unit cell, we had covered up. Number of atoms in a unit cell, we had covered up. Closed pack structures, we had covered up. Packing efficiency, we had somewhat covered up. Now we'll deal with the calculation involving the unit cell dimension in the next coming class. Imperfections in solid will cover up in the next coming class. Electrical properties and magnetic properties as well. When we'll cover up all these, we'll complete with chapter unit 1 here. In unit 2, we have to cover up the solutions, which is types of solution, expressing the concentrations of solutions, solubility, evaporations of liquid solutions, ideal non-ideal solution, colligative property, and the determinations of molar mass, abnormal molar masses as well. The unit 3rd, we have your electrochemistry, that we have to cover up the electrochemical cells, galvanic cells, that is the Nernst equation, conductance of electrolytic solutions, electrolytic cells and electrolysis, batteries, and that is your fuel cells, corrosion. In unit 4, we have to cover up the chemical kinetics, which is rate of chemical reaction, factor influencing the rate of reaction, integrated rate equations, pseudo first order reaction, temperature dependence of the rate of the reactions, collision theory of the chemical reaction as well. In unit 4, we have to discuss the surface chemistry, which is your adsorptions, catalysts, colloids, classifications of colloids, emulsions and colloids around us. In unit 6, we have to cover up, that is the name of the unit, general principles and processes of isolations of elements, and that is the occurrence of metals, concentrations of ores, extractions of crude metals or concentrated ores, thermodynamic principles of metallurgy, electrochemical principles of metallurgy, oxidation reductions, refining, uses of aluminium, copper, zinc, iron as well. In unit 7, we have to complete the P block element, where we have to cover up the group of 15 element, dinitrogen, ammonium, oxides of hydrogen, nitric acid, phosphorus, that is allotropic forms of phosphide, phosphorus halides, oxo acids of phosphorus, and a group of 16 element, dioxygen, simple oxides, ozones, sulfur, allotropic forms, sulfur dioxide, oxoacid and oxoacids of sulfur, sulfuric acid, group 17 element, chlorine, hydrogen chloride, oxoacid, that oxoacids of halogens, interhalogens compound and group 18 elements as well. Where we'll cover up in the unit 8, which is your the D and F block element, where we have to cover up the position in the periodic table, electronic configurations of D block element, general properties of the transition element, which is D block, some important compounds of transition element, the lanthanides and the actinides, and some applications of D and F blocks as well. Then after that we'll cover up the coordination compound, where we have to cover the Werner's theories of coordination compound, definitions of some important terms pertaining to the coordination compound, nomenclatures of coordination compound, isomerism of coordination compound, bonding in the coordination compound, bonding in metal carbonyls, stability of the coordination compound, importance and applications of coordination compound. Other than that, we'll start with the part 2 of the chemistry class 12. Then after that, we had covered up the sociology. Here we are dealing with the quantitative aptitude, where we had started with the arithmetical ability section 1, which where we have to cover up the operations of numbers, LCM and SCF of numbers, and as well as we are dealing with decimal fraction. And other than that, we'll start with the software engineering, and other than that as well, we are dealing with this reasoning as well, where we had completed the verbal reasoning and we had started with non-verbal reasoning, and where we had done the series more than 1000 questions, and we had started with analogy, and surely we'll complete that soon as well. So stay tuned with us. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and give a suggestion in the comment box. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel so that many and maximum people can get the information at once. Thank you.